Howdy, and welcome back to my returning viewers. Now, for the very small amount of you that watched my last video, I was, to put it bluntly, extremely wrong. The Illuminate were not what I was expecting, and it seems that a lot of their designs will be changing from what we saw in the leaks ages back. But my shock aside, there are a lot of videos already out there of Illuminate guides, but for the most part, they just tell you what weapon to use or what meta loadout works the best, and I just find that kind of lame. So, like in my previous how-to videos, we will talk about the defensive capabilities, as well as some recommended weapons for all the squids, both new and old. Afterwards, I'll talk about some tactics and general tips that have helped me find success in my games. So, to not keep you guys waiting, let's start with the basic grunts of the Illuminate, the Voteless are the main chaff enemy of the squids, and can be a massive problem when properly backed up by overseers and tripods. They can be damaged by any weapon type regardless of pin, and where you aim doesn't matter too much. However, do note that if you don't land a headshot, they have a chance to remain alive and can crawl on the ground. As for weapons that are good against them, any fast fire rate or good AoE weapon will do wonders. However, they have a new friend joining them. Flesh mobs are the second chaff enemy you will see a lot, and they can be damaged from any weapon. However, don't let that fool you, as flesh mobs are extremely tanky. Even a shot from a recoilless rifle isn't enough to bring one down, and even 2 EAT rockets are enough to stop one. Now that may sound like a problem, but it's important to remember that the many heads that make up the flesh mob are all weak points, meaning they go down fast as long as you aim for these weak points. Most primary weapons will still struggle, so I recommend either using machine guns or AoE stratagems such as the autocannon on flak to wipe out their heads as quickly as possible. One last thing to not forget is they are very fast when charging, so you have to dance around them like you do a bug charger. But now that they're out of the way, let's discuss the ones who control these armies of reanimated flesh. Now, Overseers have 3 variants, 2 of which you should already be familiar with, in the form of the Grounded Overseer and the Elevated Overseer. The new variant joining them is the Crescent Overseers, or as I like to call them, Fuel Rod Cannon Overseers. Now, these Overseers are armed with a massive plasma cannon that can either be used in direct fire or arcing mortar fire. One thing to note is that thankfully, these indirect blasts don't deal too much damage and don't ragdoll. However, they can be very dangerous in numbers, so take them out fast or reap the consequences. This goes for all Overseers, as they are tanky and have medium armor on their heads, making them very hard for most weapons to deal with effectively. Of course, you can still rely on your fast fire weapons like the Lib Carbine and the Tenderizer, but for these guys, marksman rifles will do you best. Ironically enough, despite the hate, this new Warbond's rifle is perfect for them, as despite the light pin, the rifle does 200 damage a shot, making it perfect for taking on Overseers. But in general, weapons with high DPS and good accuracy will be very good against Overseers. But now we only have one tank enemy to cover, and I'm sure everyone is more than familiar with this towering mechanical monster. Tripods are very strong when fully backed up by an army of Voteless and Overseers. Despite what may come with them, they are always the priority target. Most primaries won't do any damage against them, but heavier hitting ones such as any with medium pin can harm them on the legs. Typically though, I would hand that job of dealing with tripods to machine guns and heavier hitting stratagems. You can harm them though. Tripods will go down quickly, but they can kill you just as fast with their arc attacks up close and their beam from far away. Always be on guard when taking them out. Also, a quick note, even if you are in a mech or in a vehicle, that beam will one-shot you if it hits you directly in center mass. So, once again, be extremely careful when taking them out. Stingrays are probably the most impactful new enemy. They can one-shot you even in medium armor with their strafing run, and can be hard to take out, requiring medium pin to even damage them. They also are extremely quick, meaning most heavier weapons like rockets and beam weapons aren't going to be useful. Personally, I'd use a machine gun to take these guys out, even though it will take a few tries to fully kill one unless you get really lucky. HMG works best, but the base machine gun can still get the job done. Just look out for the floor lighting up blue and you should be okay. Lastly, and the most brief, I will talk about the Watchers. Just make sure to kill them fast. They go down easily from anything, but if they call in more squids, you will be in a whole world of hurt. I'd argue, depending on your situation, you should target these guys first and foremost. Regardless of targeting order though, just don't let them call in help, as that will start a chain reaction that, trust me, you do not want. Now that we have gotten the enemies themselves out of the way, we can move on to tactics. For this, I will show you a little diagram of a battle as an example of how to best combat the Illuminate. Now, as you can see, our 4 Helldivers are running through a city on their way to their next objective, when suddenly, a Watcher calls in an assault of squids. But don't panic, as they are perfectly equipped to deal with the coming storm. But first, let's rewind back to when these brave soldiers were picking their loadout. As you can see, Held Everyone has decided to go with offense-driven loadout, with lots of orbitals and eagles, with an HMG as his stratagem weapon of choice. And his primary, the Liberator Carbine, to take care of the endless waves of Voteless that may stand in his way. Helldivers 2 shares a similar primary weapon, however stratagem-wise, he's gone for a more generalist loadout, with a supportive sentry, an eagle, an orbital, and a journalist support weapon. Helldivers 3 shakes things up with a supportive loadout, fielding a vehicle, resupply backpack, and sentries to further up the firepower of the squad. His primary, a marksman rifle, great for eating away at medium-tier enemies. Lastly, Helldivers 4 loadout is another generalist loadout, however he's decided to go with a bit more of an armor-destroying edge in the form of the recoilless rifle. Now that we know what our Helldivers are fielding, we can go to the diagram. In that time, a massive wave of Overseers, Voteless, and Tripods have been fielded. First, our Helldivers dismount, and Helldiver 3 throws down his turrets and mans his vehicle's gun, aiming for the heavier tripods. Following him up, Helldiver 1 throws a 500 kg to take out a good chunk of the Voteless. He also gets into a position with his HMG and targets the Voteless and Overseers, as well as tossing a few orbitals and another 500 kg to blow away most of the horde. Helldiver 2 picks off the Overseers and targets the flesh mobs, attempting to keep them down. Helldiver 4 finds an elevated spot and starts hammering away at the remaining tripods before switching to HE and focusing on the remaining Voteless and flesh mobs. Ultimately, even though this is a bigger than average wave, it has been made short work of, and the Helldivers get back in their vehicle and keep going to their objective. Now you may be saying, these Helldivers sure seemed overprepared, and yeah, that's the point. I feel like a lot of people tend to overestimate their capabilities and end up losing critical moments such as this made-up battle, which ends up costing them the game. Now, you don't need to follow the loadouts of each Helldiver exactly, and people should experiment however they want. But if you are playing with any of these vague roles or have a loadout similar, this pitch battle may help you figure out how to play using said loadouts during your next match. Well, that's all I have to say. Hope you enjoyed the video. I tried to make this one a little more high quality, and I hope I did that. Once again, thank you guys for all the support, despite my channel's small size. Y'all are cool for showing such a small channel so much support. That's all from me, though. Bye-bye.